number when we get to that?
We don't, that's not in the packet. It's just something we compiled in anticipation of trying to simplify and help the process.
Got it.
I will say, Dan, it only leaves 2 of the appointments out of this list. So,
Right. Okay, I'm reading through them anyway, so it's okay. Thanks.
Okay.
All right. We'll call to order the town council meeting for January 11th, 2021. Happy to be in 2021 rather than 2020. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We'll have a moment of silence now. Okay. Carol, do you want to do the roll call for us, please?
Murdoch,
Here.
Councilmember Vicky Anderson,
Here.
Councilmember Andrew Gardner,
Here.
Councilmember Dan Landrum,
Here.
Mayor Charles Poss.
Here. Has everybody had a chance to review? Oh, wait, before we get started, we need to have a consensus that based on the governor's order that we can continue to have meetings, or that it's in the best interest, I guess, of the community, for the health and safety of the community, to have meetings online rather than in person. I don't think we need to have a vote on it, but if anybody objects to having meetings or feels like that we should have in-person meetings now in lieu of the governor's order, let me know. Otherwise, we'll continue to have these meetings electronically. Does anybody have any objections?
No.
Okay, we have a consensus to have continued meetings electronically during the period of time that the governor has authorized us. And Harry, I think that was through February 27th. Is that right? Or is it different?
February 27 or 29.
Okay.
Is that right? I can look real quick.
Yeah, that's the one thing I forgot to look at, the date through which that order went.
I don't recall the date either, but it does incorporate both of the February meetings.
Okay. All right, so we'll, based on this, we will continue to have these meetings online and not in person through the date of the governor's current executive order. All right, now, Carol, if we could have we did the roll call, sorry. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes that were in the packet? One of them is for the December 14th town council meeting, and then the other was for the meeting of the Water Utility Board. Has everybody had a chance to review that? That meeting was December 21st, 2020.
On the Water Utility Board meeting on the 21st, I'm marked present and I was actually absent.
Okay. We'll need to make that correction. Are there any other changes that need to be made to either of these minutes? Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve you want us to do those individually, or can we do them together?
You
Or
can
as
do it together
amended.
as long as the motion includes the revision to the December 21st.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve these minutes with the revision regarding the Water Utility Board meeting?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
The motion, so the next person would have been the second. So am I correct in that, Harry?
That's correct.
Okay, so I got Charles as the most person making the motion, so you're the first.
He asked for a motion, stated the motion, and asked someone if anyone would make it.
Vicky made the motion, and I believe Andrew and Susanna tied for seconding the motion. Which is okay. All right, we'll have a vote now.
Vice Mayor Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Councilmember Vicky Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Andrew Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Dan Landrum,
Yes.
Mayor Charles Poss.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Sam mentioned that Claire Greisinger was here to address the council. Is there anybody else that wants to address the council, Sam?
No, sir. We didn't receive any other requests to address council.
Okay, let's hear from Claire then.
Okay, I'll bring her in at this time.
For the record.
It may take her just a second.
Hello.
Hey, Claire,
Hey,
can you state your name and address for the record, and then we'd like to hear what you have to say.
all right. This thing tells me the host wants me to start my video. I don't know what they're talking about. Just ignore it.
You can, your name is on the screen.
Okay.
There is a way to start video. If you put your cursor over the bottom left of your computer screen, it should show mute and stop video or start video.
Okay. I'll just do the voice thing. I don't want to be on the TV, the
Okay, that's
video.
fine.
I was going to address the council, and I would like to ask Mayor Poss for a little extra time. Is that all right if I get an extra minute or so?
That's fine with me.
Thank you. And I am speaking on my open record. Hello? I'm speaking on my open record requests, although last year I did file 2 or 3 for my husband for BZA information. His are separate from mine.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Greisinger, can you please give your name and address for the record?
Sorry. Claire Greisinger, 40 Carriage Hill.
Thank you, ma'am.
So at the December 28th, 2020 council meeting, Councilman Landrum wanted a monthly report made to the council listing citizens' open record requests to see what issues were going on with town government. I don't get that connection, but the rest of the council were not supportive. So he moved on specifically to my record requests. I have sent the other 4 council members a spreadsheet listing my 2020 record requests and some additional information. And I've checked with Mr. Ewan, who fills record requests, and he did not give anyone my request information. However, Mr. Landrum credited me with 80% of the requests that were made. I think I made 21 of the 38 requests last year, which may be 50-something%. So I don't even understand what that was brought up for. But anyway, Councilman Landrum stated my requests amount to staff harassment, a waste of taxpayer money, and encumber staff unnecessarily. but I have not been contacted by the town manager, who I think would address any staff issues. So here's a brief summary of my 21 open record requests. 16 were from shared or department files. They were existing documents, policies, applications, job descriptions, and so on. Most emailed to me by Mr. Gillen. 4 were compiled from existing documents and emailed to me in a very short list. And if those requests for information are considered harassment, then I guess I'm guilty. The only request I made that would take much staff time was for information on the ongoing Old Town Sidewalk project, partially funded by grants. Councilman Landrum recently brought up to the council the idea of using taxpayer funds instead of grant money for town projects. Mr. Landrum and our town manager said grants add time and regulations and costs. Well, the Old Town Sidewalk project seemed a perfect example of this. It will take 13 years from start to finish. It's had additional regulations added over the years, and the cost is going to be substantially more. 2 other sidewalk grants have been rolled into this project. A resolution for the engineering costs were passed 4 years ago, but the project has not moved forward. So I asked for the documentation and correspondence for that ongoing project. I naively thought this information would mostly be together in a file or folder that I could read myself, but I was told it had to be gathered up, which would take staff time. Yet how can I or anyone else evaluate using grants versus taxpayer dollars without information? While my request was not denied, the day after Councilman Landrum's remarks and accusations, I withdrew it. I did send my spreadsheet, a summary of the open record discussion last month, and a link to council meetings to TCOG, and I'm sending the same information to OORC, asking for an informal advisory opinion. I don't mind emailing any open record requests I make to Mr. Landrum. And I hope other citizens will not be hesitant to file requests now. A little more information on the town website would be welcome and might lower the number of requests the town receives. As an example, last Friday, I asked Mr. Gillen where I would find the town's open record policy. Well, I have to file an open record request for the open record policy, since it's not on the website. However, yesterday I obtained a copy myself, and it states a copy of this policy will be available at the website. And finally, if this part of the council meeting is covered in the media, please be clear the other 4 council members did not consider Councilman Landrum's opinion of my request a waste of employees' time and taxpayer money and harassment of our staff, who I certainly support. If anyone would like a copy of my spreadsheet with those open record requests and additional information on those, you can just email me at smcitizen@epbfi.com. So I thank you and I appreciate the extra time. So I don't know how to get out of here. Click.
Thank you. First of all, Claire, thank you for your comments. Sam might be able to help you get out. I'm not sure I can.
Okay, Sam will help me.
I think there's on my screen on the bottom right, there's a button that says leave. Is she left? Oh, okay.
I placed her back in the waiting room.
Pardon me?
I placed her back in the waiting room.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's move on to resolutions. And I believe we have a number of resolutions that we could take care of according to Boyd in one fell swoop. Carol has something written down with a lot of them on there. I know that
Charlie?
we need, yes,
May I ask something?
sure.
Do you recall me mentioning anyone's name in that meeting?
No, I don't think you mentioned anybody by name.
I would generally ask if you knew that. That might have been worth saying, because it's not exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give more life to this than it needs.
It-
But yeah, if we need to say on the record, you did not, as I recall, and everybody can weigh in, but I don't recall that you mentioned anybody by name. You mentioned that one person had made most of the requests, but
Did I say 80%? Did I say 80% of the requests?
You may have, I don't remember actually, but I know you didn't mention anybody's name. So that
And I
is
also didn't say
correct.
80% of the requests, and that's very easily knowable information.
Yeah, I mean, we can look back at the thing. I don't know that I wrote that down in the notes I was taking, Dan. I'm not suggesting that you did or didn't. I don't remember.
No, I know. I'm just saying it is appropriate though for us as council members to protect each other when things that are not true are said, especially if we know them in this case. And you're in the role of the mayor, and I think it's the mayor's role, because generally I didn't ask to speak to Claire. I think that's your role to control that. And I'm not upset because this is an awkward situation. It was awkward to begin with, but
Yeah, I think that this issue was addressed last meeting. Claire obviously had something she wanted to say, and I didn't really want to create a discussion out of it. We've already discussed it, but yeah, you're correct. You did not mention her by name,
and
set the record straight.
I would also like to go on the record that anyone who wants to file an open records request should, and the town files them and always has. And I have investigated when people have said they didn't think theirs were being seen to quickly enough to find out that perhaps they were, and that sometimes they come fast, sometimes they come slower, depending on the workload and what the town has going on. So I think that was misrepresented, and I'm very comfortable saying that, and would be very comfortable defending that as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Dan. And if anybody else has any comments about this issue, feel free to address them. I think it would be good for us to move on unless there's some errors that need to be corrected, like Dan pointed out. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the resolutions. Do we have, as far as I know, we really have just one that might be worthy of some additional discussion and that we would need to vote on individually. Or one area. We have 3 people nominated for 2 spots on the BZA. Other than that, I think that that impacts the Planning Commission. So I think we should take out the Planning Commission and the BZA, and the rest of them we can vote on in the one resolution that Carol has drawn up.
Okay, the list I had included the reappointments to the Planning Commission.
Right. Well,
you guys,
Ryan Slattery was appointed to, he was appointed to the BZA and the Planning Commission. So, and I spoke to him. He does not really want to be on both of those. And so we obviously need to vote separately regarding him.
yeah, we did not get a reply on that question from him, so we did not prepare a resolution for Planning Commission for him. So the ones we have for Planning Commission are the reappointments of Eddie Smith and Jamie Blanton that there was consensus on. And then the remaining, the 2, Mr. Slattery and Mr. Houston, there are 2 resolutions for the 1 slot on the BZA, which is the outstanding discussion.
Well, really, there's 3 slots on the BZA. Ashley Henry, Doug Houston, and Ryan Slattery.
Which council indicated they wanted to reappoint.
Right. I think, Doug, we by consensus put up those 3 for the 2 spots. And if we don't have a resolution for Ryan Slattery, I would like to go ahead and make a consensus vote to put him on the Planning Commission, and we can vote on that, I guess, at the next meeting. depending on what happens with his BZA appointment.
Do we have to have a written resolution? I mean,
If we don't have
my
to,
memory may be off, but I thought I specifically requested that be one of the resolutions we consider.
I thought he had been nominated for the Planning Commission as well.
The discussion was primarily about the Board of Zoning Appeals. And then we were asked to contact, there were two or three, I believe Mary Margaret Sullivan was another one. We were asked to contact them and inquire as to their willingness to serve on more than one, which we attempted, but didn't get a reply from some of them. So I don't think, at least my understanding of the direction wasn't that there would be a resolution. That we would check with them for their willingness. The note I have from Mr. Slattery is for the Board of Zoning Appeals, and we're asked to prepare a resolution for him and for Mr. Houston relative to one of the slots, and that Ashley Henry would be reappointed for the other slot. So if
All right. So listen, I thought Brian Slattery was, I thought what your comment was at the last meeting was that we have to vote on him anyway. So let's just by consensus nominate these people to these positions, so that we would vote on them at this meeting. I recall that we nominated Ryan Slattery for both the BZA and the Planning Commission and would vote on these things. But if we can vote on him with a resolution tonight for the Planning Commission, depending on what happens in the BZA, let's do that. If we have to do a consensus first and then next meeting vote on a resolution, we'll do that. Either one's fine, but let's do one or the other depending on what happens with the BZA. Let's figure out the BZA first. Another person that was nominated for two boards was Marcy. I can't remember. Her last name is escaping me.
Cooper.
Marcy, don't take offense to that. I spoke with her as well today.
Is it Cooper?
Yeah, that's it. Marcy Cooper, we had nominated her for the Construction Appeals Board as well as the Planning Commission. And I called her just to make sure she was okay with that. She said that she was. So we can proceed with that. So do you want to, shall we talk about the BZA situation first and then do the resolution for the others?
Yes.
Okay. I'll start because I spoke with Brian Slattery today. So I'll just start by telling you what he told me, and that is that he prefers to be on the Planning Commission. He wants to serve the community, so he'll do whatever is necessary, but his preference is Planning Commission. And but he doesn't want to do both. The other thing I will add to this whole situation is after our meeting, I spoke with some people about what the BZA does. I spoke with Dave Cantrell, and I had spoken to Dave before because I was the town council liaison for the BZA. So I had spoken to him about what the BZA does before this last conversation. There was a suggestion made that we needed fresh faces, new voices, that there's some we discuss ideas and things like that on some boards. I know that we do that on the Planning Commission, and I've always appreciated what Dan brought to the Planning Commission because he had a lot of thoughts that were good and made us all think. But I don't think the BZA is the same way. I think the BZA is a black and white board, a board that says, here's the law and here's how we have to apply it. And there's not a need for discussion of issues, and there's not a need for fresh ideas. And I would submit that experience matters more on the BZA than maybe on other boards. Somebody who has experience with our ordinances and codes and applying those in an appeal capacity is probably better than somebody being a fresh face on the board. So my preference, and I have heard from no one who has said that Doug Fuston hasn't done a good job on the BZA. In fact, what I've heard is that he is a valued member of the BZA and does an exceptional job, and that they want him to remain on the BZA. And so I would say that, I would prefer to have Doug Fuston approved for the BZA and put Ryan Slattery on the Planning Commission, which is his preference. So does anybody else have any discussion on that topic?
I had similar conversations with people because I was, I sort of left the last meeting, and sometimes it takes me a little while to process things and think about things. I have to get some distance and come back to it. And the idea that we were going to, remove Mr. Fuston from the BZA and then have Mr. Slattery serve in 2 roles, and Mr. Fuston had had stated his desire to stay on the BZA, just doesn't seem fair, really, ultimately. And I also have learned a lot more about their role, and I've heard feedback from people, and I've sought feedback and input, and I came to the same conclusion that Charlie did. I don't think there's a good reason to remove him, so I think that we should keep both Ashley Henry and Doug Fuston on the BZA, and that we put Ryan Slattery on the Planning Commission along with Marcy Cooper.
Does anybody else have any discussion? Thank you.
So a question I'd have for Charlie and Susanna, and Andrew in particular, because Andrew, expressed your desire to have Ryan, is, do you feel we need another commercial developer on the Planning Commission? And do you know the background of this particular commercial developer, what sorts of developments he's worked on?
I'll start addressing that. Dan, I spoke to him. I think Andrew spoke to him. I don't know if anybody else spoke to him. I also asked some people about him. I do know that he is a grocery store developer, because they just closed a deal on a big grocery store development. But also because that's what Hutton does a lot of. They build a lot of Walmart. What are those small grocery stores are that Walmart does? We had a big issue with the grocery store, but I will also say this: Jason Farmer is a developer, and I think Jason Farmer is very knowledgeable and adds a lot. And to the point you made about having fresh faces or different points of view, I think it helps. Jason may not agree with me, but I think it helps to have different points of view on that board in particular. Even though I may not always agree with Jason, I respect his opinion, and I think he is very knowledgeable. And we had Wade on there before, Wayne, on there before, who was an architect. And so he's in the industry, I guess, of building, but he also had very valuable information to provide to us. So I think that having different viewpoints is good. I think that I would hope that if there were a commercial development that was close to his line of work that he would recuse himself in a situation like that. But also it's a 9-member board that makes recommendations. And so the town council ultimately is responsible for making the final decision on things. So
That's exactly, I mean, I think we have vigorous debate up here about these kinds of subjects, obviously. And I also think, being a commercial developer, and it depends on what, vantage point you look at it from, his knowledge and expertise might help us. I mean, we've got some commercial growth issues on this mountain that we need help with. We got to we have to crack this nut. And so, I mean, I tend to sort of lean that way too. I mean, you never know how somebody's going to vote or what kind of issues are going to come up. I would hope that he would recuse himself in the event that that we are in a situation like this again, and who knows, it could happen. But I think the citizens of this mountain are outspoken and will let us know what their thoughts are. And ultimately, the council will have the final say. So, I'm okay with it. And I think he seems extremely qualified. I've read a lot about him. I've read articles of projects that he worked on. He seems really smart. I think he'll make a positive contribution to the Planning Commission.
I agree. I think that having a broad idea of opinions that might be very different from each other gives us a really good picture into how we can make our next move. And so I feel like that it's not going to be something that's going to form a coup. I think it's going to be something that could be very helpful to us.
Does anyone else have any comments?
Agree. Having spoken with him, he's obviously very knowledgeable about the subject, but it's not just his background. He is a citizen of the town. We're talking about voting somebody on that would give a voice to another citizen and some more diversity potentially. Another viewpoint. He's also a father of young children, which is a good viewpoint to supplement on the Planning Commission. I think he'd be a valuable addition, as opposed especially to the alternative of leaving an open seat and having one less voice on the Planning Commission.
All right, thank you, Dan. Dan, do you have any other comments or any comments?
No, I just think those are the kinds of questions we need to consider when we're doing this, because it does matter how we see it and what their backgrounds are.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but like I said, I think, and you were on the Planning Commission for a long time too. I think that Jason, who was a developer, added and didn't take away, or had, I shouldn't say in the past tense, he adds to the Planning Commission. He doesn't take away from it because he's a developer. If we had a Planning Commission full of developers, that might be a problem. But I think that these differing viewpoints that we have been healthy for the Planning Commission, and hopefully we can keep that diverse group of people on the Planning Commission. So that's my position.
Sure.
Sorry. Can I make a suggestion quickly too? One thing that might have helped me during this process, as someone who's still a relative newcomer to these appointments and these boards and committees, I think that people who wish to be reappointed to the committees and boards on which they serve should fill out an application, because those of us who, I've been on the council now for 2 years, but we have we have 3 other new members, just to kind of know their backgrounds, their history, what their experience has been serving on those committees, why they want to continue, would be, I think, really helpful when you're sort of looking at all of these, because sometimes I feel like I have to make a decision about somebody and I don't really know a lot of their background or their history in the same way that I do the people who are new applicants. But to me, they
So-
all look new.
Yeah, so Susanna, one thing I've done, and Boyd's been very helpful with this, is and kept obviously awesome records, because I think on 2 or 3 of them have asked, hey, do you have,
Mhm.
I got Doug Fuston's application from, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, I don't know, quite a while ago. So yeah, Boyd keeping great records, and he'll send you the original application. I would prefer not to create the extra hassle for a current member wanting to be reappointed to fill out another application unless something major has changed in their background that they would like to mention. But yeah, I read Doug's, and I can't remember one other member that I requested, but you know, and I got Doug's phone number to call him from that application. So it's very helpful. I agree, great information, but I'm not sure they need
Yeah.
to refill
I
it
just think
out if we
Anything
have
that we can do to, you know, there's a lot of information that we have to keep up with, in addition to, you know, all these board appointments and all these other things. We just have a lot of other information we have to process. And so anything that, that we could do that would, you know, kind of facilitate these, making the decision easier. And if, using their older applications, putting those in, or showing it to the applicant and saying if anything has changed, you can edit or modify it, and resubmit it. It's not gonna, you know, I just think it's helpful. It's, you know, it saves time.
I will say
For
this,
us.
the ordinance that requires them to do a new application, I guess that hasn't really been applied, but if you look at the ordinance for the boards, it does say that as a current member, you're supposed to submit another application if you want to remain
There
on
you
the board. So, you know, it's there.
I don't think it's asking too much, really. It's not like we have this exhaustive background check we do. It's a 3-page application that's generic across every board and committee that people serve on. These, the Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals especially are state sanctioned boards. They carry a lot of weight. They are consequential. I don't think it's asking too much in those cases, specifically for somebody to fill out a secondary application.
Okay.
I think it's not going to take too much time. And I would think that it would be helpful to all of us new folks.
Yeah, especially if they can maybe call Boyd and get a copy of their application from 10 years ago to help them fill out the next one. That would be good. I agree. I mean, it is a requirement in our ordinance, so we probably should follow it.
I wonder if we can make I wonder if we could do an amended application for people that are returning, something that's going to be a little briefer than the original one, although it's just 3 pages. I think Councilmember Mark has a good point, but we could do something that would be a little bit shorter as in deference to their service.
Yeah, I mean, we can look into that. Okay. All right, well, why don't we go ahead and vote on the BZA people who have been nominated for the 2 spots. We can start with Ashley Henry, and then we'll go to Doug Fuston and then Ryan Slattery if we haven't filled the 2 spots. Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Let's just start with, do we need to read the resolution for Ashley? I guess we do. So I'll read that. This is a resolution reappointing Ashley Henry as a member of the Town of Signal Mountains Board of Zoning Appeals. It's resolution number 2021-something. So can we vote on that?
You have a motion and a second.
Okay,
I'll
We have a-
motion.
okay, Andrew's made a motion.
I second.
I can't hear you, Carol.
Who made the first motion?
I did.
Was it,
And
was it?
Andrew.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Councilmember Vicky Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Andrew Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Dan Landrum,
Yes.
Mayor Charles Poss.
Yes. Okay. I propose that we have a resolution to appoint or reappoint Doug Houston to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
There is one in your packet.
Second.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch who made the motion.
Just to be clear, Charlie, when you said you propose to, is that a motion?
I guess I can leave it up to anybody else to make a motion. Why don't I do that?
Read
Does
the
anybody
heading of
want-
the. You need to.
I'll make a motion for the resolution that states a resolution reappointing Doug Houston as a member of the Town of Signal Mountains Board of Zoning Appeals.
I'll second it.
All right.
Okay, stop. I need one of you to read the heading of the resolution, please.
Andrew just read that. I can read it again. Okay, the resolution is a resolution reappointing Doug Houston as a member of the Town of Signal Mountains Board of Zoning Appeals. And Andrew has made the motion. Dan has seconded the motion.
Vice Mayor Susanna Murdoch,
Wait. Don't we get a discussion?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So at best, these are people, these are citizens, they're people we all care about and people we all know and we've met. And to vote up or down someone is not a personal, there's nothing personal about this. It's about
Absolutely.
doing business for the town. To be put in the position to where you're asked to say why you don't want someone to do something is not the way this should be done. So to try to talk about ideas is really what I think we should be doing, which is what I attempted to do during this process. One idea that you brought up today, Charlie, that I just want to get it on the record, and I could really be wrong. Bob Greisinger texted me a minute ago. I was wrong. I did say 80% last week, and I apologize, but I did not say anyone's name. I'm happy to admit when I'm wrong. However, I think the purpose of the BZA is variances. If someone wants a variance from what the code is, it's not just that they know exactly what the code is to enforce it. The BZA doesn't enforce the code. It's when the town wants to enforce the code. You can't do that. You have to get a variance through the BZA. Am I interpreting that correctly, Boyd or Harry?
Yes, the BZA doesn't enforce the town's regs. The BZA, if somebody asks for a variance, the BZA has, as somebody said previously, very strict guidelines they have to follow. But developers, I mean, there are, I guess the simplest thing, when you look at the Board of Zoning Appeals, they are charged with, among other things, and pardon me, I don't have the specific language in front of me, but they can't give one property owner an advantage over other similar properties. But people come to the Board of Zoning Appeals and say, well, I need, my property is different because of topography or something like that. That's what variance discussions usually are made on. I mean, if every piece of property was exactly the same, then the BZA's job would be much easier than it is.
Right. Yeah, I think, somebody coming to the Board of Zoning Appeals and saying, my house would look much better if I could angle it this way on my property, but that cuts into the setback, give me a variance, that's not their job to do that. It's not an aesthetic judgment of theirs. It's a black letter law judgment. That's my understanding from talking to people. It's not an aesthetic thing or a property value thing. Somebody may say my property value would be much better if I could put my house here rather than here. So that's why I say that it's not a board that debates ideas. It's more of a black letter law type of board.
But
Applies the law.
so again, I don't think you were on the council last time we discussed this. If the town is trying to preserve, certain kinds of trees or a certain look or those sorts of things, and, and there are different setbacks on the street, that's also when variances might come in. You might move a house to preserve some hemlocks, and right? Is that giving that homeowner an advantage, Harry?
Well, hold on. I think that, and I've talked to Ann Haygood about, she wants the tree board to have a little more teeth, I guess. And, maybe if our town regulations had something in it that said, one of the considerations is this thing that the tree board has identified, then the BZA would look at that as a consideration. But I think if the town ordinance doesn't include something, a consideration by the tree board, then I'm not sure that the BZA should be looking at, the fact that there are hemlocks here or there. That's my understanding. And Harry can correct me if I'm wrong about that, but I think that there needs to be some regulation that gives the tree board some authority over this situation. I'm looking at you, Harry.
Well, I don't know the tree board authority. I do think that it is possible and defensible for the Board of Zoning Appeals to decide that if we, the simple matters are, if you have a stream or something which prevents somebody from building a home without a variance from the setback, then that's easy. You've got a situation like if we don't get the variance, we will have to remove some trees. I think the Board of Zoning Appeals would have the authority to use that to grant the variance. I mean, it's such a fact-driven situation. I can't opine whether they should or shouldn't, but I think they could.
Okay. And I'm not, by the way, suggesting the tree board shouldn't have a bigger say in what happens. I'm just saying that my understanding is that the tree board doesn't. And if, maybe we need to look into considering some additional measures that would give the tree board some input on some, subdivision development type of things. So anyway, I don't know if that addressed what you were getting at, Dan, or not. Anything else for discussion? Okay. Well, we can call the vote. Hold on, Dan?
What about the land use plan? How does the BZA figure into what has been stated in our land use plan that is what we want for the general direction of the town? Is that, maybe that's not, that discussion's not for today, maybe? I wonder, because that seems where these discussions sometimes.
My understanding is their job is to enforce the codes. It
Well,
wouldn't
as Harry
have,
said, it's not to enforce. They're not an enforcement body. People are there for variances.
And they do make the decision on whether a variance should be granted
Correct.
based on the code.
Sure.
And they
Yes.
have very strict, like I say, the only one that comes to mind, not having reviewed them recently, is they can't give one property owner an advantage. They issue citations if somebody doesn't abide by the setback. I don't think that's their job.
That's probably the, I'm not sure who does that. I guess the building inspector.
I think.
Sure. So mine might have been a red herring. These are the kinds of things that it's hard to tell people who who have questions. As you've mentioned, Andrew, our job is to represent people, and we all represent people. We've all talked to people. We've talked to people who have not understood or felt like they weren't listened to or understood, in these processes. So it's our job to ask these questions, as difficult as they may be at the time. But you'll notice I also seconded Doug's nomination or renomination to be on the BZA. So it's not that I'm against it. I think the idea is, though, my idea is I'll still stand by from the last meeting, but I'm not going to rehash those. So I'm sorry for interrupting the process, but I'm ready to vote if you are, Charles.
it's good discussion. One other thing I would like to mention is just that as folks request variances, the process, I'm sure at times gets contentious and those things, but the reason that the BZA is there and that they know the codes and that the codes are there it protects all of us, all of our properties. For the same reason that the neighbor may want to move closer to the property line to protect some trees may be very undesirable or damaging to your property value as the neighbor. And so that's why the body is there, and the body is does what it does, and why they try to adhere to the codes and the rules they're given. If we need to be more lenient, it comes to me down to the council needing to pass some more leniency onto them, some more flexibility to the extent it's allowable by state law, because some of it is state law.
Yeah, I mean, these are things we can have discussion on the planning commission and by the town council. Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion on the table. Let's have a vote.
Here's Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Councilmember Vicki Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Andrew Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Dan Landrum,
Yes.
Mayor Charles Poss.
Yes. Okay. So we filled the open 2 spots on the Board of Zoning Appeals. We can address the other resolutions, and then we'll address what to do with the Ryan Slattery and the Planning Commission after we do these other resolutions. So Carol, I understand you have something written up with all the other people on them for a resolution?
Yes, let me ask Mr. Veal real quickly. I'm also showing the third one on this list needs to come off at this point.
No, we can go ahead and do that one, and if then we can deal with her appointment. Well, let me back up. Mayor, did you say that Marcy Cooper was fine with being on the Construction Board of Adjustments and Appeals as well as Planning Commission?
Yes.
Okay, so we can leave that one. We'll deal with the Planning Commission along with Mr. Slattery. I think we can just amend this remaining resolution and take care of those.
Okay.
All right, let me run down this list of what we've got as consent, what I call consent resolutions. Resolution reappointing Scott Ferguson as a member of the Town of Signal Mountains Condemnation Board. A resolution appointing Marcy Cooper as a member of the Town of Signal Mountains Construction Board of Adjustments and Appeals. A resolution reappointing Ray Boas, Claire Greisinger, Jeremy Rardin, and Melissa Hartman as members of the Town of Signal Mountains Design Review Commission. A resolution reappointing Barbara Womack, Clyde Womack, Ann Haygood, Kyle Kelly, Robert Ritchie Jr., and Joshua Rogers as members of a subcommittee of the Tree Board entitled Town of Signal Mountains Hemlock Conservation Task Force. A resolution reappointing Rita Irvin as a member of the Town of Signal Mountain Historical Committee. A resolution appointing Mary Margaret Sullivan to the Town of Signal Mountains Mountain Arts Community Center Board. A resolution reappointing Ellis Gardner to the Town of Signal Mountains Mountain Arts Community Center Board. A resolution
I'm sorry to stop you, but I need to recuse myself on that vote, so I don't know if we need to pull my family member Ellis out of that group.
I think that would, if you're going to recuse yourself, let's pull that one out and vote on that one separately.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you.
That's fine. Thank you.
that one has been removed from the list.
Okay.
Resolution reappointing Jamie Blanton and Eddie Smith to the Town of Signal Mountains Municipal Planning Commission. A resolution reappointing Kurt Kuntz as a member of the Town of Signal Mountains Parks Board. A resolution appointing Brandon Sullivan as a member of the Town of Signal Mountains Recreation Board. A resolution appointing Mary Margaret Sullivan as a member of the Town of Signal Mountains Recreation Board. A resolution reappointing Tom Turner as a member of the Town of Signal Mountains Recreation Board. And the last one is a resolution reappointing Robert Ritchie and Andrew Hodgson as members of the Town of Signal Mountains Tree Board. And I apologize if I mispronounced anybody's name.
Okay. Did anybody speak with Mary Margaret Sullivan about her willingness to be on the the rec board and the MAC board?
Yes, and she responded that she was willing to be on both.
Okay. All right. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All right. We can vote.
Vice Mayor Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Councilmember Vicki Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Andrew Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Dan Landrum,
Yes.
Mayor Charles Poss.
Yes.
All right.
So we need to read the resolution for Ellis Gardner, and Andrew is recusing himself from that one.
Do you want me to read the heading on that?
If you don't mind, you have it. I was looking for it.
A resolution reappointing Ellis Gardner to the Town of Signal Mountains Mountain Arts Community Center Board. And I will make a note that Mr. Gardner is recused.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to pass the resolution.
Thank you. Do we have a second? I'll second the motion.
I'm catching up. All right. Are you
Do you have
ready
any
for the vote?
discussion? Do you want to have any discussion, anyone? Okay, ready to vote.
Vice Mayor Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Councilmember Vicky Anderson.
Yes.
I'm marking Councilmember Gardner as recused. Councilmember Dan Landrum,
You betcha.
Mayor Charles Poss.
Yes. Just glad it didn't end up in a 2-2 tie. All right. Is that all of the, no, now we need to discuss Ryan Slattery. Go ahead, Boyd.
I was just going to say if I could offer the two open positions, both have an expiration of December 31st, 2021. And we do have a resolution for appointment of Ryan Slattery, and I would ask Harry to correct me if I'm wrong, but if you do get to the point that you wish to appoint him and Marcy Cooper to the Planning Commission, as opposed to appointing Ryan Slattery to the Board of Zoning Appeals, we can amend that existing resolution to accomplish that. So just wanted to give you the option on the front end. They would both be being appointed to the same term. So we can accomplish that if council so chooses.
Okay, so
Question real quick, Boyd, I'm so sorry. So both of them, the expiration date is for 1 year for December 31st, 2021.
Right, because they would be filling vacant positions that were vacated mid-term. So their initial appointment will just be to the end of this year.
Thank you.
okay. So it sounds like we would need a motion to appoint Ryan Slattery to the Planning Commission. Is that correct? Or to amend the resolution to appoint
Yeah.
Ryan Slattery to the Planning Commission? Okay.
Yeah, once the determination is made that those appointments are council's desire, then I will be happy to read an amended resolution that you could then make a motion and second on.
Okay. Do we have a consensus, or do we want to discuss the idea of appointing Ryan Slattery to the Planning Commission? Does anybody object to that? Okay. So will you read a resolution, Boyd?
Okay, what about Marcy Cooper? Because it will be a combined resolution.
I think, was she not part of that resolution that you read, Carol? I was trying to write down all the names and couldn't keep up.
That was the Construction Board of Adjustments and Appeals.
Okay. Do we have a consensus to appoint Marcy Cooper to the Planning Commission? Does anyone object? No. Okay. Then let's have a resolution for Marcy Cooper and Ryan Slattery.
All right. A resolution appointing Ryan Slattery and Marcy Cooper as members of the Town of Signal Mountains Municipal Planning Commission. Be it resolved by the Town Council of the Town of Signal Mountain, Tennessee, that Ryan Slattery and Marcy Cooper be appointed to the Municipal Planning Commission for a term expiring on December 31st, 2021.
All right. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll motion to approve.
I'll
A
second.
second.
Okay. We definitely have a second.
I put down Councilmember Anderson as the second on that one.
Okay. Can we have a vote on that? Or wait, discussion? Anybody want to have any discussion? Okay, can we have a vote on it?
Vice Mayor Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Councilmember Vicky Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Andrew Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Dan Landrum,
Yes.
Mayor Charles Poss.
Yes. Okay, I think that covers all of the board. Well, what about the transportation planning organization? Is that?
There's a separate
That's later, okay.
resolution for that.
That's true. All right, the next item on the agenda then is approving the purchase of automated side loading garbage collection truck. That is a resolution. I'll go ahead and read the resolution and then we can talk about it.
Caption, at least.
Yeah, I'll read the caption. A resolution authorizing the town manager to purchase one automated side loading garbage collection truck consisting of a 2021 International Chassis and Heil Liberty Body from Lee Smith Incorporated for a total amount not to exceed $218,938 to be used by the sanitation department for the town of Signal Mountain. Does anyone have any discussion?
Just as a matter of explanation, and it's pretty much covered in the body, but this is a purchase that will be covered under the vehicle replacement plan. The vehicle's due to be replaced next year. We are having some issues. There's a 9-month turnaround on an order. So this will just allow us to get the order in place, and the vehicle will be delivered in the next budget year, at which time funds are available in that vehicle replacement fund to cover the purchase.
What, and boy, just for clarification, I believe we will have, if I remember correctly, technically more funds allocated for this purchase than we intend to use. Is that correct?
There
Next
is
year.
coming in slightly under anticipated cost. So
Yeah.
when a vehicle comes in, we estimate a replacement cost, and through the life of that vehicle, we adjust that. We try to be as close as possible to the actual cost. And in this case, it's pretty darn close, but we actually got the vehicle in just a little bit under what we were anticipating. So there's a few dollars remaining that will not be expended.
I have a question.
And
Go ahead, Dick.
can you just explain the need I see on the this list from Loretta that there were a lot of different options, and being ignorant to that, I just want to know why we choose this particular model truck and body as opposed to other options.
The staff compiled bid specifications to cover the needs for the vehicle, and this particular vehicle chassis and body combination are the only ones that met all of those standards. I don't have that list in front of me, but it did meet all of the specifications, and the bid that was slightly lower was for a smaller capacity body than what we have required. So It is the lowest, best bid in that it meets all the specifications.
I noticed that there was an option for a 3-year extended warranty on the chassis, engine, and the body. So I'm curious if you know what the existing warranty is. That's an extended warranty. So what is the existing warranty on those items, and how long do we generally keep these vehicles?
I don't have, I think Loretta was going to be,
Loretta is in the waiting room. If you'd like me to bring her in.
Yeah, that'd be good.
if you don't mind, she may have that off the top of her head.
Hey, Loretta, welcome.
Hi. I kind of missed the last question, I think, going from my phone over to here.
That was from me. So I noticed that the preferred vehicle that we're talking about, the side loading garbage collection truck.
Right.
The preferred vehicle had 2 options. One was with a 3-year extended warranty on the chassis, engine, and body, and one without. And the one with the warranty exceeded our budget. But I was curious, A, how long we normally keep the trucks, and B, how long is the existing warranty? This looks like it's an extended warranty, so it must have some warranty that comes with it.
They usually come with a 1-year warranty on the truck and the body. And we were hoping to get an extended warranty, but we didn't realize how much just a 1-year warranty was going to cost. And we have the useful life on this garbage truck to be 7 years.
Do you know, and this might be something you can't answer off the top of your head, but maybe you can, of the trucks that we have, do we have, over the 7-year life, do we have significant problems? Is having a 3-year extended warranty a good thing? It wouldn't cover the whole 7 years.
No, it wouldn't cover the whole 7 years. We have had problems in the past with the truck that we have now. And just wanted to mention one other thing is that the truck we recommended also will be, any maintenance required will be local in Chattanooga. Some of the other vehicles have to go to Nashville or other places just to get maintenance done on them. And so that was one selecting point for us, was that maintenance is done locally. But we have had to take our existing garbage truck to Nashville a couple of times, and it takes about a week, get it up there, they work on it and get it back. So that's problematic.
Loretta, the vast majority of issues we have with trucks like this come in probably the latter half of their useful life. Was that fair to say?
That's fair to say, yeah.
So the 3-year warranty, while could be beneficial, most of the problems aren't going to be showing up in that period of time.
Yeah, we actually got bids on a 3, a 5, and a 10-year warranty, but they were so expensive. I mean, it really put us over the top as far as cost to be able to get that longer warranty on there.
How old is the current truck?
7 years.
7 years.
Well, let me just tell you something. I get about 2 or 3 calls a day on my cell phone from people telling me my vehicle is out of warranty and they want to sell me a warranty. So maybe I could just send them your way and you can get one of their warranties. I don't know what it is, but okay. Well, I was going to ask that, Boyd, thank you for addressing that, because I was going to ask if the problems arise in the first 4 years anyway.
Yeah. We tried to get that longer warranty, but the prices just went up so much regarding that we were way out of budget.
All right. Does anybody else have any Points of discussion? Any other questions for Loretta?
Did we, on the current one, did we have an extended warranty when we purchased it?
No, we did not. This is the first time we've asked as an option for an extended warranty.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion, right? Or do we have a motion to approve the resolution? Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Anyone second?
I'll second.
All right, we can vote on it.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Councilmember Vicky Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Andrew Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Dan Landrum,
Yes.
Mayor Charles Poss.
Yes. Okay. The next item on the agenda is resolution
Okay.
authorized. Sorry.
Before we move on from that, can I just ask a general question? What do we do with the old truck when we purchase the new one?
We always keep one truck as a backup, and then the one that's the backup now will be auctioned off.
Okay, so we'll sell
We'll sell that.
the one. Okay. And does that go into the vehicle for replacement fund?
Generally,
Do we know an estimated value for that next year?
I do not know that.
Are old garbage trucks worth much or?
Depends on the garbage truck.
Yeah,
They're used pretty hard, so they're pretty worn out by the time we're done with them.
yeah. Okay. Thank you.
it really varies on the things that we put out, from police cars to old pickup trucks to some things you don't get as much as you think they might bring, and then sometimes you can't believe somebody would pay that much for something. So it's really hard to. It goes out on a used site called govdeals.com. So it's an online, meets all the requirements for public auction. So you do have a lot of contractors and stuff that look to that site to get things. So sometimes if it meets their needs, they'll pay a decent price, and other times it's hard to get what you think you need, but it's really the only mechanism we have because we can't just sell it. It has to be an auction.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Okay. The next item on the agenda is a resolution. I'll read the resolution. It's a resolution authorizing the town manager to enter into an agreement with Rock 10 Converting Company to sell scrap and recycled materials gathered at the town's recycle centers to WestRock Converting Company, with the pricing of said materials being based on market conditions. A copy of said agreement is attached here too.
I think you may have gotten a prior copy.
Okay.
Well, but that's fine. One error in that, in the body, where it first says Rock 10, that also needs to change to WestRock. I apologize, I didn't catch that. We changed
Well, I'm
it
glad
up.
you mentioned that because I saw that the contract wasn't with Rock 10.
Right, that is, the company changed names, so I just didn't catch that one change there. I apologize.
Okay. Is that the only difference in that resolution from what has been, how it's been revised?
I will say, Boyd, in my packet, it is WestRock.
Does anybody else's say WestRock?
It says WestRock in the text of the resolution, but the heading says Rock 10 in mine. And then it says WestRock later.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, the contract says WestRock.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll change the resolution that I read say authorizing the town manager to enter into an agreement with WestRock Converting Company rather than Rock 10 Converting. Okay. Should we, does anyone want to make a motion and then we can discuss it?
I'll make a motion
As-
to approve.
As amended, as amended for
As
discussion or
amended,
something.
yes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the discussion. The motion.
So we have a motion and a second. I'll start. I spoke with Harry earlier today about the executive order from the governor and having the meetings online. And I just asked him if he reviews all the contracts we have. He says that Boyd sends them to him. He recalls reading this one. I think it's important for our town manager, our town attorney, sorry, to read our contracts and make sure they're okay. I noticed in the contract, somebody had written in seller in red.
If I may, that is was the last outstanding change that we had requested, and I have since received the amended copy to include that word. So just wanted to get this out to you since that was the only change that was still outstanding. I want to go ahead and get it out to you, but they have made that change.
Okay. I'm comfortable if the town manager and the town attorney have both passed on the contract. Does anybody else have any discussion on it?
I would like to just ask, as a matter of process, I know we're not buying something here or selling something. Do we reach out to other potential recyclers and evaluate pricing? Maybe not every year, but because I realize this is kind of an annual renewal, but periodically to see that we are getting the best deal for our garbage.
Yeah, we have looked at other options in terms of just how we operate recycle, because that would really be the only way to change this scenario. As far as a buyer, frankly, they're pretty much the only game in town.
Yeah.
We've had an outstanding contract with them for years. It came around, and this, as you'll note, it does indicate a beginning date of October, and that's the time we spent to go through the contract and send them requested changes, and then they get it back to us, and we review it and send it back. So it's something we go over very thoroughly to try to make sure we're in the best position possible. But in terms of, you know, the price that we get for the materials, this type of scenario where it's based on market values is pretty much the standard. And again, they're pretty much the vendor in this area.
Yeah.
Did we used to use Orange Grove?
They operate the center. They provide the staffing, but that's it.
Is that different? I mean, that's not what this contract is about. Orange Grove wouldn't be bidding on this contract.
No.
Okay.
This is for taking the materials, and if Loretta, correct me if I'm wrong, but if memory serves, ultimately in the centers that Orange Grove operates, that material ends up in the same place.
Yes. The Orange Grove used to take our glass, and then they were no longer able to do that. And so WestRock now took that over, taking our glass for us, since Orange Grove couldn't do that any longer. But
I thought I saw in the contract that they were not taking glass, or is that not correct? I was
They
going to
do
ask
take
what
glass.
we do with our glass.
WestRock takes our glass.
Okay. I think it was some of the promotional materials indicated that you can't do glass. Does anybody else remember seeing that?
Yeah,
I
it's
do.
not acceptable recycle, and that's basically what's not allowed in single stream recycling. So the compactor where you put all your plastics and your paper and your aluminum cans and all of that, glass isn't allowed into that single stream, but they do take it as a separate item.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't read the contract itself. I just saw that exhibit that talked about what wasn't acceptable. But they take our glass. That's part of the contract.
So Loretta, that brings up, I mean, the question that comes up every time we look at this is are there options that are non-single stream available in this market now?
Well, with the cardboard is separate and the glass is separate.
Cardboard and glass is separate, but
Yeah, that is separate. Right now, WestRock is set up to take the single stream. I don't know if some other towns might be still separating their plastics and papers, but WestRock is set up to do it as a single stream for everything else.
do we know if they ever get audited by the towns to find out if they are actually still recycling or we are actually just giving them something that they're taking and dumping? Do we know where that stream goes?
I mean, I don't audit them or, talk to them about that. They have to sell their product to be able to, stay in business. So their end user, I'm not sure who their end users are, but they have to find buyers for all the products for them to have a business, basically.
That's a good question, Dan. You hear a lot that recycling just goes in the landfill with everything else.
Not
I don't
glass
know how
and
much- Sorry?
not the glass and cardboard, but there's been some talk that some of the single stream is just being taken and dumped, but we don't know if that's, I just don't know. I tried to do a little research on it about a year or so ago, and I couldn't find a definitive answer without putting a tracking device in a milk jug and throwing it into the single stream.
Loretta, is there somebody that you deal with at WestRock that could actually tell us what they do with their recycling?
Yes, I have a contact there that we stay in contact pretty regularly, and I can talk to her, about that and maybe find out like who their end users are, who their vendors are that they're selling to. She might have some stats on, how much they sold of cardboard, single stream, or whatever throughout the year. They could probably keep up with that.
That would be great.
They pay us for a load of single stream, correct?
Right now, we pay them $35 a ton to haul off our single stream.
Okay.
They pay us for the cardboard and our scrap metal.
Okay.
But
And-
yes, I can talk to my contact at WestRock about that.
And for quite some time, that's been the case. The years of making money on paper and plastic and all long gone. One thing I think it's important to mention whenever we discuss this is the other advantage to recycling, other than the obvious, is that there are regulatory requirements for us to reduce on an ongoing basis the amount of materials that go into our landfill production. So that in and of itself drives recycling as much or more than any prospect of making money on the product, is that we meet those requirements and at least on our end keep that product out of the landfills, and hopefully that remains the case down the stream.
I think we asked about this in the past, but how long has it been since we looked into the efficiency of curbside for residents?
Oh, was that last year, year before?
Yeah, within the last year or two, it's based on the, what Walden does and others, it's significantly more expensive than our current operation. I don't recall the specifics, but significantly.
Is it, I hope that it's cheaper for us to divert whatever goes in the recycling than to have it picked up in the trash. I imagine that there would be more trash and more people and more garbage trucks needed if all of this was going into the garbage cans rather than into the recycling.
That's definite. And the state requires us to divert 25% of our waste out of our waste stream. And with our recycle center used as much as popular as it is, we are able to do that, along with our brush. So our yard waste doesn't go into the landfill, leaves don't go into the landfill. So those things combined get us up to our 25% diversion.
And I don't think there's any way, absent recycling, we could do a once a week garbage pickups.
Yeah. I will make a comment to those who are listening that it would help me to keep my wife from digging out of people's garbage cans, digging the recycling out so that she can take it to the recycling center if you would just go to the recycling center and not put it in the garbage can. If she drives by somebody's house or walks by and they have cardboard and plastic bottles sticking out of their garbage can, she just wants to go over there and grab it and take it to the recycling. So those listening at home, please do me a favor, take the stuff to the recycling center when you can and don't put it in your garbage can. Okay. Do we have any more discussion on this topic? Let's move on. It's getting long. The next item on the agenda is to appoint.
Vote.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't vote. Okay, sorry. Got to do that. We have a motion and a second, right? All right, let's have a vote.
Vice Mayor Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Councilmember Vicky Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Andrew Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Dan Landrum,
Yes.
Mayor Charles Poss.
Yes. Okay, now we can move on. The next resolution, I'll read a resolution appointing Charles Poss as the designated representative for the town of Signal Mountain on the Chattanooga, Hamilton County, North Georgia Transportation Planning Organization Executive Board. Can anybody make a motion to approve that resolution? I'll make the motion. Do we have a second? Do we need any discussion? Okay. Can we have a vote on it?
Vice Mayor Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Councilmember Vicky Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Andrew Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Dan Landrum,
Yes.
Mayor Charles Poss.
Yes.
If I may, before we move away from that, you mentioned it when this was discussed, but didn't get direction. We generally also appoint a proxy for that position so that if you're unable to make the meetings, someone is authorized to go and vote on behalf of the town. In the past, I've held, when I wasn't the appointee, I've been the proxy, but didn't want to make that assumption. If that's the desire of council, we can do a resolution on that at the upcoming meeting.
So moved.
Okay, yeah. We have a motion for that. Any second?
Second.
All right,
I'm sorry, who was the first?
Dan?
Thank you, Dan.
Do we need to vote on that then now?
Not necessarily, as long as there's consensus, we can do the resolution.
Any objection?
Meeting.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. The next item is the committee liaison guidelines. It's the third time we've hit this. Maybe we can come to some sort of resolution with it. I sent everybody another version of what I had put together. I hope everybody got it and had a chance to read it. It was redlined so that you could see how I changed it. And what I wanted to do was address what I thought was Dan's, maybe his biggest objection, and that was not feeling like you have an opportunity to speak at a board meeting when you're a liaison. So what I did is I changed it so that it says, it before said that you basically weren't allowed to speak unless you were asked. And I changed it so that you could speak during the meeting at any time when citizen participation is permitted. So I think that allows you as a citizen to make comments and to address the board and be a part of a discussion that the board's having. But again, I think the purpose of a liaison is not to really be a member of the board as much as an advisor, so to speak, to the board. And so hopefully this change helps. Maybe it doesn't, but that's my feeling. I think the liaison should, and I know this would change, Harry mentioned, this would change the way it's written now. I think the way it's written now is a little unclear. So this would change that to provide clarity, but also to change it a little bit in terms of whether you can really actively participate. So we can have some more discussion on the whole topic, on what I've put together. I also asked, by the way, Dan had mentioned he didn't get the email that Elizabeth sent out with her comments on Boyd's proposal, and I asked her to resend that. Hopefully she did.
Got it last night.
Okay, good. So does anybody else have any discussion on this topic?
Well, I'd just like to, I'm not going to rehash everything I've said before. I'm still a bit unclear as to what problem we're answering.
I don't think it's clear what a liaison is supposed to do when you're appointed to a board. And I think I want to add some sort of clarity to that. And I think that the past town council had asked for that too. It just never got done. So I'm picking up the ball and trying to run toward the goal line with it. And it may not, it may not be what the past town council had wanted to go this far. So, that may be a problem, but I think this helps us all understand what our role is when we're appointed to these boards as town council members. So I think it would be a good thing.
You might be limiting someone who gets involved with the council because they're interested in rec, or gets involved with the council because they're interested in trees, or gets involved because they're interested in zoning. The zoning's different. But, I appear to be in the minority here. I just, I still say, as citizen volunteers for this, we don't cease to be citizens when we join the council.
Well, yeah, so that's why I changed it, so that you can participate in discussions with the board as a citizen. I think I understood that to be your concern, is that you, the way it was written before, you wouldn't really easily have an opportunity to participate in discussions that the board was having, and you're a citizen and you feel like you should have that opportunity.
No,
and I agree. I think it was a little too restrictive. And so I changed it so that, yeah, you can have discussions with the board.
So that may be where we're not, the bridge isn't meeting in the middle. And I'm going to go along. I'm going to go along. But when I first brought this issue up 4 years ago, it went, and I'll not beat around the bush. I've already taken a chance on angering everybody else. I might as well just go anger people in the past as well. This had to deal with the SSBC issue. And it felt sometimes like there were council members that were controlling the meetings, and that angered a lot of people.
Mhm.
Uh,
I remember that.
yeah, but how did that work out? If you cross the line, if you mow over a wasp nest, you probably won't do that again. And I think there are just, in the natural course of discussion, if somebody overexerts themselves, it works out. Now you could have a situation where a committee was meeting and there was nobody watching and there was just somebody going in there and ramming things through. Well, even then, hopefully the citizens on that committee would step up and say, hey, we've got a problem, and the problem would come forth. And so I feel like we're answering. That's kind of where I was come back when I pushed this idea. It wasn't because I've never felt like for me personally, like I haven't been able to participate. I don't feel any, if that was the case, I can't recall when it was. I'm just concerned that we are making it feel a bit discouraging for people who are excited about getting involved, and then get involved and actually do the biggest commitment, which is the time commitment to the council, and then all of a sudden find out you have less involvement. Not that you vote. I think the less is already there by the fact that the council members don't vote. It's already there.
Yeah. I will, like, to address that point, I will say that a town council member might be intimidating to a board if that town council member is actively deliberating and discussing outside of when the citizen participation period is allowed. And I think this helps avoid that, because we know our role and it's written down, and the citizens and the board members know our role because it's written down. So it might make the board more comfortable and less intimidated by a town council member. I mean, not that I'm intimidating or anybody's intimidating, but I'm just saying, I remember the SSVC, and I remember there was somebody that was intimidating that was at those meetings from the town council. So this would alleviate that, I think, I hope.
Right. It would alleviate that, but does it create any other awkwardness that's unnecessary? If that's the thing, if that's the problem we're answering, this might be answering it with a bit of a hammer. But I'll stop. I mean, I've made my point. So,
Does anybody else?
I see it as needing best as a matter of best practice. We're not trying to solve any particular problem. The SSVC thing, you guys mentioned, I don't know much about it. We weren't residents here when those deliberations happened, so I'm not sure what you're referring to. I come to this just from a matter of best practice for the town and for the council. And to me, for the most part, even our more statutory influential boards like the Planning Commission, they're providing us recommendations. They're not necessarily determining yes or no on a grocery store, for example. They're providing us a recommendation, and then ultimately it comes down to our vote. So our voice gets heard. Our voice will be heard. The boards are doing extensive work and research and to come to that recommendation. And I just, as a matter of best practice, see that it's important that we say our voices and our opinions will be heard. We should be more of an information conduit between the board and the council, and really making that effort to not influence the board. We want to hear the citizens is the purpose of the board to me. We want to hear their opinions, and we want to provide guidance and direction as to what the council would like to hear opinions on, or things of that sort, but we don't need to be, I don't think it helps the board for us to provide another voice to to the citizens. I mean, we are already recruiting a lot of those board members, so we already have a lot of influence in the voices that are there. I see it as just a best practice for the future and for future councils. And it would avoid these situations you guys are referring to in the past to set that reference point that we're there to supplement, to guide, and to be an information conduit. And the board can provide us with that valuable citizen input, and we don't need to unduly influence it. We need to hear the citizens, is that's to me the point of it. And this, I feel like, clarifies that. I like this clarification for the liaison duties.
So Charlie, if we're going to do this, are you aware that there's generally not a citizen's time to speak at most of these board meetings?
I imagine that a lot of these board meetings are fairly casual. The Planning Commission is pretty structured, which is the one I'm most familiar with, but I would imagine that a lot of them are not as structured and more casual in the way they're run. So no, I can't say that I know how the board meetings are run, but they're supposed to be run with people taking minutes and having some sort of structure. And if the citizen time to participate is any time, then I guess then you could participate anytime. But at some point, the board has to get down to business and deliberate and vote, and that's when the citizens, aren't involved, and neither should the liaison be involved. If you have a better way to clarify this or word this, I'd welcome. I don't, want to say that this is it. If anybody has any suggestions to make this better or to propose something else, that's fine with me.
I think I've taken up enough time on this already.
Okay.
So.
Well, I want you to be heard. I don't want you to feel like you can't be heard. Does anybody else have any comments? Sorry?
I don't feel that way. It's fine.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments, suggestions? Boyd, you look like you're about to say something.
Yeah, I was waiting to see if anyone spoke up. I will need to know at what point council wants an ordinance drafted, and for certain which language we'll be using. So at whatever time the council's comfortable with making that decision, we'll need to go through that process, and I'll draft it and send it to Harry for review and so forth. But just want to make the point that at some point the decision on the language is made, then from there we'll draft the ordinance.
Okay. I would, unless anybody has any objections, I would propose that this language that I sent out be drafted in the form of an ordinance for us to consider. Does anybody else have any objections?
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
I'll have that for the meeting on the 25th.
Okay, thank you. Now is the time then for the manager's report.
As usual, we've touched on several things that have occupied a good bit of time. I want to kind of, in advance of touching on the upcoming agenda, just give you an update, and it actually kind of ties into the discussion we just had on the Wild Ridge application for additional phases. We spent quite a bit of time on that over the last couple of weeks, and ultimately the development schedule that was in place at the time of approval was incorporated in the approval. And that has not been met. So that requires that it go back to the Planning Commission and then ultimately come back to Town Council. Once we made that determination, it was pointed out that there was actually a meeting in which the Planning Commission, and I'm talking back in 2013, I believe, made a recommendation to council that changes to that development schedule could be approved by the town manager or his or her staff with some limitations. That recommendation was never acted on by council. There's no resolution, no mention of it in minutes or anything like that. So that's kind of how we've come to where we are. So we're going to cover those bases again. I've talked to the folks with Wild Ridge. They understand perfectly and have been very professional in working through this and understand that we have to check the boxes. So that's what we'll be doing. That's why you'll notice on the agenda for the 25th, there's a public hearing for the Wild Ridge Plan Unit Development. We've scheduled a meeting for the Planning Commission, which will also be a public hearing on the 21st. So that will precede your meeting and result in a recommendation for action on that. So I know I had mentioned it previously, but we're kind of still working through all of this. So I wanted to kind of give you a little more detailed background on how all this evolved. So that will be coming up on the 25th. And we've also met, Harry, Loretta, and Sam and I met, went over in detail the proposed revisions and change order from ASA Engineering on the Old Town Sidewalk project, conferred on a review of the contract, and today I drafted a letter to them and have that sent to Harry for review. So we may have something finalized on that for consideration at the 25th meeting as well. So those have been the two big time consumers for the last week and a half.
All right, look forward to what you have with the Old Town Sidewalk project. It would be nice to get that one going, that project.
And we have confirmed that they are working on this process, and negotiation hasn't halted that. So they are working on it.
I asked Loretta to email them every week. Boyd, I mean, I think that we need to stay on top of them. If they just respond and say, we're working on it, fine, but they need to know that we're looking at them. And so I think if, Loretta should email them and she can copy you and we'll all know what's going on. I have found that when you email somebody all the time, eventually they start doing what you're asking. So.
Yeah, I think I agree that we certainly need to maintain regular communications. I frankly don't know if weekly is necessary, but that is not outside the norm. As far as the regular communications, we do that. In this case, the delays, frankly, haven't been on them or us. It's a matter of processes going through with the state. But if there's any indication that progress isn't being made, we'll certainly increase the communications. Stay on.
I'd like it to be weekly. I'd like them to know that we're looking at them. I just think that they'll keep this on the top of their pile if they know that we're following up every week to find out what they're doing. And they can just tell us, we're working on it. That's fine. As long as they know we're looking, they're going to keep it on the top of their pile. That's my thought. That works. So that's my thought. All right. Other business. We have communications and reports from the mayor/council. Do we have anything?
Personnel committee met.
Oh, all right.
And we don't have the minutes in yet, so I'm going to hold off. I'll give a report at the next meeting once the preliminary minutes are turned into me based on that. But just in general, officers, nothing large was decided on. Officers were voted upon, and had some discussion of compensation plans and those kinds of things. So, but it's going to be a busy time coming up.
Yeah. All right. Good deal. Anything else?
Don't have any updates from the MAC or Planning Commission.
Okay. Vicky, you're muted.
Don't you love that? So the library committee has voted to not meet next week because of the holiday. So they'll be meeting the following week.
And you're going to be talking about expanding the board.
Correct. That's when we'll talk about expanding the board. So.
All right. I noticed that we had another application in for somebody for the
Yes.
board.
Yes, for rec board. I think we need to make a resolution for that. Thank you, Charlie. I almost forgot. That was for, if everyone's in agreement, I don't know if you've had a chance to review Dr. Keith Bowman's application for the rec board. I think he'd be a great addition. He took over running our baseball leagues. I want to say last year, or even this year, but I have not met him personally other than talking to him about this board. I have heard the most positive things about what he's done with that league, from parents, from our staff that work with him at council, from Jared. That he would be a great addition to the board. So if everybody's in agreement, I'd love to have a resolution for next meeting.
I'd like to give 2 thumbs up for Dr. Keith also. He's been great.
If I might, did I understand that you said he took over running the baseball leagues?
I believe he took over just like this year. I know Mark Wyatt was in charge for the summer, probably. Keith, go ahead.
I'm sorry. One issue we discovered, and it wasn't caught when Mark was appointed, Mark Wyatt. I believe there's a stipulation that a president of a league is not supposed to serve on the rec board. So let me check on that, and I'll send that out. And not saying you should or shouldn't, or that obviously at some point, if that's the case, someone thought it was advisable, but it could potentially be something that's changed if you feel it should be. But I just wanted to mention that because it wasn't known or caught when Mark was appointed. So before we get back to the same scenario, I'd like to address it one way or the other.
All right, let's talk about that next week then, or next meeting.
Okay.
All right. I had a couple. Is there anything else from anybody? This isn't on, okay, so I guess the next thing on the agenda is reports from committees reports. That's what we did just now. And then other. I think we should look into, when we do our budget, adding somebody on a part-time basis maybe to be involved in communications with our Twitter, social media, basically, and our town website. I think that there are people out there who really know what they're doing with social media. And one thing that I noticed, well, I think Dan was on this email exchange. There was a lady that was emailing. I think Dan was on it, maybe Boyd as well. I don't think I really understood fully what she was getting at, and I apologize for that to this woman. But essentially, I think what she was trying to say is we need to do a better job of recruiting people to be on the boards. And I think one way to do that is through social media. You really need to know what you're doing with social media to use it correctly. And I'm not saying that people that work at the town don't necessarily, but I think that if we had somebody, and there's probably people up here that live in Signal Mountain who would like a part-time job, who know a lot about social media and know how to use it effectively, that could help us out. So I think we should consider, this is a long-term thing, but when we're putting together a budget, I would like to see us put something together for a position like that. So I'm just throwing it out there.
I've been saying the same thing. I feel like we need help with communications.
Yeah.
On multiple fronts, just in general.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I mean, we can talk about that more as we go along, but if there's a way to, I don't know when you start working on the budget for the next budget, but if there's a way to try to, yeah, I mean, I'd like you to look into doing that and working that into the budget. Does anybody, I mean, we can discuss it more later. I'm just throwing it out there now.
I think it's a different skill set, but an idea I've had, and I think this actually probably pays for itself, potentially pays for itself. And again, maybe it's a different skill set, but maybe it could be incorporated into this sort of position. Is right now we use local government for a lot of our hardware and software needs. And we pay for that support yearly, this on the service side, and we pay for software, and we pay for the hardware through them, our computer hardware. As we've already explored, and I think Boyd is already working towards this to some extent, in the cases where the software isn't really doing what we need it to, like the website or the billing software, being able to have a online bill payability. Is it advantageous for us at some point to say, okay, we're big enough, we have enough staff, we're paying enough in maintenance fees to sort of bring our ITIS more in-house with an internal person. The savings would be that you're not paying for these support contracts. You're able to go buy hardware on your own, support it on your own, and then maybe some potential savings with the different software, or maybe more. I don't know the difference in every piece of software that we would be looking at, but that sort of role might fit in well with a part-time IT and part-time, but again, that's more of a marketing expertise as I see it, Charlie, what you're talking about, and I wouldn't want to.
No IT person I've ever met seems like they would be good on social media, but I'm not saying that about all of them.
Yeah, and we have, as I understand it, some pretty computer savvy people on staff too. So, I mean, I'd be open to anything in the budget where, you know, even utilizing current people and giving them some additional responsibilities and hiring their replacement or whatever it is, that, you know, that would be up to Boyd and the creativity of his department heads to figure out. But, I think we're seeing at least a few instances where the local government software and service is not really meeting our needs. It is costly, you know, and potentially looking at bringing that in-house. And then can you pair that skill set up with somebody that could help us out, advertising, board positions, all of those great things we could do with social media. I think that'd be a pretty cool thing to do. Could even pay for itself or save us money.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think if we're going to redo our website, that's something we should look at. So along those lines, I would like to talk more about the website. Not now, because the meeting is very old and there is a big football game to watch. And Sam has his Alabama shirt on, so he is ready to go. But I do want to talk about that website some more in some more detail. And maybe at our next meeting, we can talk about the website. You guys can tell us more about local government, and maybe if we have a contract with them, what's it going to take? You know, when does it end? Is there a way out of it? What can we replace in it? So let's talk about those things in more detail at our next meeting, and then the social media person or communications person as well. Just, you know, get the ball rolling to talk about these things.
So can I say one thing? I know you
Yes.
don't want to prolong this, and
No, that's fine.
let's go watch football.
You've got it on already, the pregame show, right, Dan?
Is Elton John playing? I don't know what's on the. Keep in mind when you guys are talking about spending money, and there's no way to say this without this sounding like I'm trying to be the old guy, but I am the old guy, I guess. Our budget is not just a thing that you can just grab stuff and pay. We are underpaying in a couple of our departments, in my opinion, already. And when you have staff hearing talk of expansion, and I'm not asking Boyd or Carol or anybody to get involved in this, but the one thing that we can do as council members is we can hurt morale in this town for people who are working and people who don't feel they're being compensated as it is based on the way the budget works. And I just think we have to be really careful about talking about expansion without having actually been through a budget process to see what the town faces on an annual basis, you know, with our limited sources for income. So that's all. We just have to be careful. We love the people who work for the town, and we want to make sure that we're taking care of who we have as well. That's all I want to say.
All right. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Dan. Dan, thank you for sharing that. I do know that we have some folks that do have some concerns. I've heard from citizens this week concerning our very dedicated firefighters. So I would echo what Dan just said as far as looking at the big picture first.
Yeah, and I think having a discussion about it would be good. You know, I'm giving Boyd a heads up, I guess, so we can have that discussion. And it may turn out that discussion is we can't add any personnel, but it may be that we can work it in by cutting this or doing that. I think it's worth discussion.
Agreed.
And in more detail, I don't want to throw it out here now at 8:12 and say, let's hammer this out so we have time.
I had written down to discuss this without Dan's prompting even and Vicky, is that we always say in our business that it takes 10 positive interactions with the customer to get a comment from them. And it takes 1 negative interaction to get a comment from a customer. So that ratio in terms of comments you receive from customers is always heavily weighted towards a negative experience. Since I've been on the council, and Charlie and Vicky as well, I think we have gotten 3 or 4 positive compliments and no negative compliments about our police and firefighters and above and beyond the call of duty things they do every day. And those 4 represent 40, really. I mean, more than that probably, because people have those great experiences with them and then they don't necessarily take the time to send us an email and tell us about it. And I just want to commend them on our police and fire go far beyond what they're asked to do to serve our citizens. They do such an excellent job. And it's really cool to see that, that number of positive reinforcement and compliments coming in about the work they're doing.
And
Thank you.
I'll have to say, if I may, that is not unusual to just those departments. You're absolutely correct. We get the same type of thing for public works and rec and water, and that's something I think we're very blessed that across the board we just have outstanding staff that care about their job and how they do it.
All right, thanks guys. Vicki and Andrew for bringing up the fire. You're right. We had emails about our firefighters and our police. So, and then thank you, Boyd, for mentioning that we have a lot of staff that are doing a great job. So thank you to all of you. I have a note here that at our second January meeting, we were going to talk about the water maintenance contracts. And that's not on the agenda. So let's make sure that gets on the agenda and that Adam is aware and that Harry has a chance to review those contracts ahead of that meeting. Because we do want to keep that
I do
going.
have
Okay. All right. I don't have anything else. Does anybody else have any other items that they want to discuss? Okay. So we can adjourn. Thank you all, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.